Hello, everybody. How you doing today? It's a new day. It's a fresh day. I hope you're up, shaking, and baking. Welcome to the Powerful Podcast. I always say that all my guests are stellar guests. They are killers in their field and in their industry. And today, we've got an amazing guest today. This guy's a friend of mine. We've gone way back. And arguably Africa's number one business strategist. Seriously, he had dominated Nigeria, dominated Africa. Now he took his expertise and his influence to the United States of America. Mr. Steve Harris, welcome to the podcast, bro. How you doing, man? How you doing, man?
Good to see you, man. Thanks for having me here. I finally made it to the Powerful podcast. So yes, I am truly, awesome. I'm truly making a difference in my life. If I can get up here, I've made it in life, man.
I don't relax, Steve. Steve, I want to start this podcast from a certain place. You were the first person that actually said that I dropped out of university in Nigeria. It was like a taboo in Nigeria. It's weird. And you didn't drop out once. Yeah. You dropped out twice. And that's the part of the story that many people didn't know. That the first time you dropped out of university was because you were not gelling with the course. You were not connecting with the course. And I remember you, in researching, you once said a very powerful statement. You said, you cannot teach a fish how to swim. Oh, I was like, whoa. But the second time, of course, for other reasons, right? So tell us, why is it important that entrepreneurs start their business from their place of their natural habitat? I'm picking your words right now. Because you have a training called Stay in Your Natural Habitat.
That you've done the research, bro. I'm impressed. I'm very humble, man.
Yeah.
I do think that, fish, like I say, fish don't fly. Fish don't take swimming lessons, but they know how to swim. Birds don't go to flight school, right? Fish don't take swimming lessons. There's something inside of us that we're naturally wired and fired for. But the thing is, we're not introspective. We don't go into a place of discovery. We don't go into a place of introspection. I think a lot of entrepreneurs are too caught up with the externals without recognizing that it's the internal environment that determines your external environment. You know what I mean? So I'll say that again, your internal environment will create your external environment, right? So a lot of entrepreneurs are just chasing the wind outside as opposed to recognizing, what's inside of me? What am I great at? What don't I need any quote unquote training for? And for me, initially, it came like I'm a communicator. I used to get, punished by my teachers for talking too much, and this is what I do for a living. I talk, what I'm saying? I talk. It's now that the wisdom and the contents that is inside my brain based on education allows me to talk sense, develop strategy for corporations and so on and so forth. So I think it's very important that every entrepreneur, digs deep to find out what their natural habitat is. Where's your place of dominion? Where's your place of ultimate power? Where's that place that you don't seem to need any training or anything? It just comes to you naturally. If you look at it, Paul, look at the top 1% of people in most of their fields. These are people who truly love what they do. It's like they were born to do it. Look at Ronaldo, look at Messi. They were born to do it. Michael Jackson, Beyonce, they were born to do it. LeBron, Michael Jordan, they were born to do it. Right? So if you don't find what you're born to do, you'll just die without ever discovering what it is. And I think that's something that we should never go through.
Very powerful. In 2010, you started your business. I believe that you said that you got the divine instruction from the Lord to start your business. And there was a line you used that was so powerful. It said you were contented in being the best number 2 to the best number 1. I thought that was brilliant. And in 2010, you started your business. You were sending out proposals over and over again. You had a pregnant wife. Your rent was getting due. You were sending out proposal. What kind of conversation were you having in your head, and what was pushing you forward while all of that was going on? Yeah.
It's a great question. There were a lot of dark days and very long days, long nights of uncertainty where I wasn't sure if I was on the right path. Some days I would wake up and say, who sent me a message? But just like you said, I did feel I did feel a sense of divine assignment. My faith is very important to me, but I'm not one of those. I'm not very, for the lack of a better term, I'm not one to say that, oh, God said, but I felt it was very strong. And like I
Mm,
said, Feledro Toy, who was my boss and is still my mentor, took a chance on me. I was a college dropout, two-time college dropout, and then this guy takes a chance on me, cleans my rough edges, teaches me, shows me the rope, teaches me the game, and I was very content to be the best number two to the best number one, because I feel like your assignment can be to either a place or a person. And
person,
at that
yeah.
time of my life, my assignment was to a person. And I was very content being the best number two to the best number one. I mean, it's very, it intrigues me today when I see a lot of people who are in such a hurry to leave their jobs to
Mm,
start businesses. And I don't have a problem with them starting businesses, but you've not developed that capacity. Everybody today wants to be CEO of Me, Myself, and I Incorporated, going
mm,
nowhere fast,
mm,
without understanding that there's a place of service and learning and things like that. But anyway, everyone's journey is different. And I had risen in the organization from a two-time college dropout. My first role was an office assistant or a janitor.
mm,
And from there, very quickly, within a couple of months, I became an associate consultant. Within a year, I became a consultant. Within a year, I became a senior consultant. In that
mm,
same year, I became head of our consulting group, and so on and so forth. And I began to rise through the ranks, where eventually I was deputizing, for the lack of a better term, for our CEO.
mm,
And I was now at the place where I could think at strategic levels, because I was a rainmaker, Paul. And you're all about sales. You are the king of
mm.
sales, undoubtedly. So you understand what it means that sales are the lifeblood of every
Yes, of a
business. Cash
business, yeah.
flow, cash flow is important in every enterprise. And I was making it rain, man. I was just making it rain on a regular, and I was very, very content and very happy being that guy who had everyone covered, and I was growing and I was learning and I was enjoying myself. And then I get this leading that it was time for me to leave, and thank God for the beautiful women in our lives, our wives, who are amazing. I know your wife; she's amazing. I know she's your muse, how she
Thank you.
inspires you,
Mm,
and
thank you.
the same goes for my wife. And I remember when I told her eventually that I felt led that it was time for me to leave. I remember my wife said, "Jump, God will catch you." You know what I mean? And
Mm,
shout out to my wife if she's listening. But she said, "Jump, God will catch you." And it's easier said than done. It sounds very inspirational, motivational, but the reality of jumping without a parachute can be very dicey. Because I remember at the time when I left my job, I had 20,000 naira in my account, which is about 20 pounds or something like that, which literally
yes,
makes no sense. 20
yes.
pounds. My wife was pregnant. Rent was due. I mean, who leaves a job and has only 20 pounds and starts on faith? And I didn't have an office. I didn't have a desk. So I started working from home, because I'm a big believer. And I say it all the time, that it's not what you don't have that limits you. It's what you have that you don't know how to
Don't you
use.
use, yeah.
So I wasn't looking at what I didn't have. I just said, okay, what do I have? I have my living room. So I got two paint buckets, and I stacked them on top of each other, and I put my laptop on the paint buckets, and I would work from there. I would literally resume there from 8 a.m. and I'd get off by 6 p.m. Right? I was
Mm,
obsessed. I was obsessed because I needed to pay the bills. I was turning out proposals, and I was getting tons of no's. But the thing about it, Paul, I just kept saying to myself, is all I need is one yes. That's all I need. I need one yes. So I didn't care how many no's I got. I just knew if I got one yes, my life will change. And thankfully, I did get that one yes, and several yeses later, and still to the point today where my yeses are far out. And I can't remember the last time I got a no. You know what I'm saying? I'm
mm,
grateful to be in the place where I am in demand. I am oversubscribed. I'm incredibly
mm,
good at what I do. Incredibly blessed to do what I do.
mm,
And yeah, but I think those dark days and long nights built a lot of capacity and fortitude and resilience and work ethic and hustle and grind. Allow me to say, the Bible says about Paul. He said, we all, paraphrasing, he says, all apostles have grace, but I labored more than all the apostles. Do you
mm,
get what I mean? So yes, you may have the grace, but do you have the grind? And I think by the grace of God, I have both. So yeah.
mm, That's so powerful. If you had to do it all over again, right? Starting from the top now, what specific skill would you over index in terms of developing first, and why? Second question, a follow up to that is, if you had to do it all over again, I mean, you have staff in Nigeria and all that. Of course, where you are, we have remote staff, and you had to employ a new set of staff. which role will you employ first and why?
Great question. Um, if I had to do it all over again and over index on any particular skill, it would be
Mm-hmm.
the skill of persuasion, the ability to persuade
Mm,
people.
mm,
Which I'm grateful that you and I both have, and we've learned and we've developed over
mm,
the years. But I think the ability to persuade people, which is important in sales, is something that I would go hard on. You know, the ability
mm,
to, you know, be able to say things in a way that takes your customers, that handles your customers' objections so that they don't have the power to object. Do you get what I mean? It's
mm,
like taking the bullets out of a gun. You know that they're
mm,
going to shoot at you, but you've emptied their cartridge. They're shooting blanks. So when you lay it on them, they've got blanks. They've got nothing because
mm,
you've looked at it. You've seen every potential outcome, every possible contingency, answered all those questions in your mind and brought it to them before they even have an objection. So that the only way they can go from there is just to simply say yes. So
mm,
for me, that's a skill that I would over-index in. And of course, the capacity to be incredibly disciplined. I think that a lot of people have great talent, but a lot of people are poor at discipline.
mm,
They don't have that staying power. You post a picture on Instagram, you get 2 likes, you get upset, you stop doing, you say you never do it again. You know what I
mm,
mean? Or you do something, you go live, for example, on whatever streaming platform, and you don't get any results. You get upset, you get offended, you say you're never doing it again. I think a lot of people are too lily-livered, yellow-bellied,
mm,
chicken-hearted. They don't have that staying power of discipline to keep doing the work, to keep grinding. I mean, Paul, I look at you like I truly respect you because you're one of the most profound knowledge workers I know, and it's not just knowledge workers from the place of what we do as coaches and entrepreneurs. It's the fact that you're devoted daily to discipline. I see the books you read. You're the one who got me started on certain thought leaders that I've been privileged to share stages with. You are the
yes,
one I remember.
Brendan Bouchard.
Richard, exactly. You know what I'm saying? So you put me on that. You saw you saw something inside of me, like, bro, I think you need to listen to this guy. And I started listening. You would bring books my way. You're constantly evolving and honing your craft. So you really are a master. And I've never seen you without a book. Do you get what I mean? The first time I literally met you in Port Harcourt, you had a Ghana book full of books.
Oh my goodness. Thank you,
You
thank
know
you,
what I
thank you,
mean?
thank you so much. That's
So yeah,
powerful. That's
so that's what I would say. Then if I had to think about hiring staff again,
yes, because I mean there are
um,
people who are watching us,
what
they want to start a business now. Or they made the wrong eye, and that is their problem right now. If you are to hire, if you are speaking to a business person now, which role should they hire first and why?
hmm, that's a tough question. For me, it may be a little counterintuitive, but for me, I would hire an executive assistant first.
That's very powerful.
I would
That's very
hire, I would
nice.
hire
Because
because
that
an
keeps it very
executive
organized.
assistant. Yes, I would do that
Mm,
because I think a lot of entrepreneurs are scatterbrained. You know what I mean?
this is
They're not
powerful.
accountable to anyone. So there's no structure to govern them. So they
Mm,
just leap in different directions and do whatever they want without someone who's, so to speak,
I like that.
just holding them like, oh, this is a reminder. I need you to
Mm,
stay on task here. Um,
mm,
because yes, I know we can hire marketers and operation staff and all those things to move our business forward, but if you don't have somebody who moves you forward, if you don't have somebody who
mm.
you can keep,
Wow,
who
this is
helps you just steer
powerful.
the ship a little
Never
bit,
saw it this way.
you know. Yeah, for me, that's the first role I would hire. The
This
second role I
is
would hire,
powerful.
yeah, the second role I would hire is a coach. And I'm not saying it because I'm a coach myself or you and I are coaches, but to be honest, that's the second role you're going to need. No boxer, no athlete goes into competitive sports without a coach.
Mm,
The coach may
mm,
not be able to run the way you run, but he can tweak your strategy, he can tweak your routine, he can do
mm,
something to your thinking that causes you to see bigger and better. You know what I mean? We get the privilege of doing this for many organizations and individuals as well. And it's amazing. Like yesterday I had a 1 hour strategy session with a coach here in the U.S., fantastic guy, and he had been doing his business, and he'd been doing pretty good, and in 1 hour of strategy with him, he realized that the reason he had a bit of challenges with his marketing was because he had a messaging problem. And in 1 hour, Paul, we crafted his messaging, changed his marketing, changed his positioning. That's what a coach does.
Yeah.
Because a lot of us as entrepreneurs, we're shadow boxing, where we're going through the motions, but we're not hitting anything. But externally, people look at us like we're working hard because we're doing the motions, we're sweating, we're grinding, but you're not hitting anything. And a coach helps you hit something. A coach would just say, "Oh, no, your technique is off." Like when you play golf. I play golf a little bit now. They will say to you that, "Oh, it's just a little, maybe a tiny little tweak, and the ball will be able to get exactly where you want to." Because initially, when you're playing golf, it's about strength. In your mind, you think it's the harder you whack it, the further the ball will go. But after a while, it's no longer about strength. It's about technique. It's about form. It's about angles. And all of a sudden, those little minute tweaks, you now recognize that you're not even working as hard. You're not exerting as much energy. You're not whacking as hard, but you're a lot more effective. And I think those two roles would be the first two roles for me, a coach and an executive assistant.
That's
So,
very,
yeah.
very, very powerful. I mean, I was taking a walk this morning, and as at yesterday, I got a few clients that say, "Send us this, send us this, send us that." So I just picked up my phone. I dropped like 2 voice notes to my, like you said, executive assistant in Lagos.
Yeah.
Send me, craft this proposal, do these things, do this, and that frees the entrepreneur to focus on the
Yeah.
other bigger picture. So I think that
Yeah.
is very, 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 very powerful. All right, Steve, you spoke at Kajabi. I mean, anybody who's in the thought leadership space, you know that Kajabi is the biggest platform. Can I call that an e-commerce platform now? But it's
For the
where,
lack of a, yeah, you can call it.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like the Shopify of thought leadership space. It's massive. Recently spoke at that conference in the United States of America, and I remember when you attended that conference as a participant.
Yeah.
When you got back from Lagos, you actually said, you wrote it down. It was on Instagram or something. You said, "I'm going to speak at
Yeah.
this conference." You said
Yeah.
that. And now we circle back later on. This year, you spoke at the conference. And I love what the lady said before she introduced you. I was very excited about that. You actually took a
Thank you,
picture
bro.
of yourself and then you declared that this was going to happen. Walk us through about the power of, picturing your dreams first and taking action to back it up to make it a reality. Because you just exemplified that with that.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Thank you. Thank you for the support as always. For me, that was like it was a dream come true because I'd gone to this event and I was totally blown away. But Paul, there's that thing inside, and maybe it's a Nigerian thing or maybe it's a Steve Harris thing, but I know that it's a Steve Harris and Paul Full thing. We have
Mm,
audacity.
mm,
We're very audacious, and there's something inside of me that knows that I am the best, literally, at what I do.
mm,
Um, and when I got into those rooms and I was listening to people who were amazing, I just kept saying, "Is that all? Like, that's
mm,
it? Like, okay, that's it? I can do better. You know what I mean? I can do better. I should be on this stage." And there was that place of audacity because I kept, no disrespect to anyone, but I recognized that I was as good, if not better, than a
mm.
lot of people on the stage. But again, you have to prove it. You know what I mean?
Mm.
You've got to be able to back it up,
Yeah.
right? And so, when the event was done, I took a picture and I said to myself, I was going to be the first, black speaker. And I said, if I can be the first black speaker, I'll be the first African. If I can be the first African, I'll be the first Nigerian on that stage. It doesn't matter. I don't care, but I'm going to be on that stage. It
Mm.
took me about 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And you,
Mm-hmm.
you talked about taking steps, and I think a lot of people are just caught up
Yeah.
in their imagination, and they don't
Mm-hmm.
take responsibility. As motivational speakers, we like to come up with cliches, but if you break the word up, imagination, there's imagine, and then there's nation. And the thing
Mm-hmm.
about a nation, Paul, is a nation is a government. So the nation is a system. A nation has order.
Mm.
A nation has foreign
Yes.
policy, domestic policy. It has a military. It has education, so on and so forth. So forth. So with your imagination, your camera is off. With your imagination,
Is it off again? I know how to fix it this time around, but just
yes, your
just
camera
go
is off.
ahead. Um, go ahead. It's back on now, right? I don't know why this is happening. Oh my goodness. Is it on? Don't worry, just go ahead. Just go ahead. I can do the video. We can do the audio. We can continue with the audio. It will sort itself out. Just go ahead. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so a nation has order. It's got system. It's got structure. So in your imagination, in the nation part of your imagination, you have to educate
Mhm.
yourself, right? There's an
Yeah.
education department, there's an education ministry. You must educate yourself. There's a domestic policy part of the nation, which is reaching out to businesses and sorts of people in your domestic area. There's foreign
Yeah.
policy. Your camera is back. There's foreign policy,
Yeah.
and foreign
Yeah.
policy is reaching out to a more global outlook, right? There's
Yeah.
military, there's structure and order. And I say all these
Yeah.
things to say that a lot of us are just caught up in the imagination part of the image
Mm.
part of our goals. But there's no system and order. There's no foreign policy. There's no domestic policy. There's no education. There's no order. So I'll give you a real example. So even though I had this vision and I'd visualized and I'd printed the picture, I put it on my Instagram, I put it on my room in my home that I was going to speak on this platform, I needed
Yeah.
to take steps. Right. So what did I
Mm.
do? I engaged in foreign policy because at the time I was in, when I first interacted with them, I was in Nigeria and they were in the US. That was foreign policy. I'd reached
Yeah.
out to them and, we had tried a few things. Unfortunately, I mean, the first opportunity I got to be a part of the virtual panel that they were doing, I was in Benin City. At those states, I had gone there for some contract work, consulting work, and the internet was bad, Paul. I cried.
Mm.
I cried. Like this is my first opportunity to be on this global platform, and the internet in Nigeria. I
Wow.
cried. I just cried, because I couldn't connect. They couldn't see me. It was just terrible, right?
Mm.
Anyway, long story short, by the time I moved over here to the US, it now became my domestic policy. So my domestic policy was now to reach out to them because now we're in the same geography. And
Yes.
I felt led to send them an email. Like God said to me, like, send them an email, reach out to them. And my limiting beliefs came in like, ah, will they agree? Can I handle the rejection from them saying no? What if they say I'm not good enough? Yada, yada. So I had to deal with all those things subconsciously. But I
Mm.
asked myself, what's the worst that could happen? I just need one yes.
That's the most
So I
powerful question
send
to
them,
ask.
yeah, what's the
Mm.
worst that could happen? Nothing. It can't. Well, it will bruise my ego for a bit, but I'll come back stronger. I'll be like, all of you, your father. I'm better than
Mm.
all you guys. I'm coming
Mm.
back. That's what I will do.
Mm.
That's Steve Harris. But I sent them this email, and I said to them because Paul, this is the thing, especially for those of us who migrate from other countries and come to live in the West,
Mm.
particularly. Um, Sometimes we feel that sense of inferiority because we feel like how we've heard stories that when let's say you were educated in Nigeria and you want to
Mm.
come and work in the US or something, they'll tell you that your degree wasn't good enough because you came from a
Mm. Mm.
poor
Mm.
school or whatever. Your degree is not recognized
Mm.
globally. And
Mm.
subconsciously, there's that thing where you feel like your skills are only good on a local level, but they're not good
Mm.
on a global level.
Mm.
Global level. And I think one of the things, and you've talked about this, I've heard you mention this several times, is your ability to story tell your legend.
Yes. Yes.
We don't know how to tell our stories, man, Paul. We don't know how
Mm.
to amplify how amazing we are. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I mean, no disrespect to many thought leaders in the West. Paul, you and I have sold out capacity crowds back home in
Yes.
Nigeria. We've got
Yes. Yes.
thousands of people who
Yes.
listen to us. Even when we think about our Instagram followers, even though that's whatever. But my point is, we've done things that even people here in the West cannot even dream of. But
Mm.
subconsciously, because we feel like, oh, the US or the UK are the bastions of knowledge and significance, and everybody who we've been inspired by comes from these
From
demographic.
yeah. Yeah.
What are we
Yeah.
going to say to John Maxwell? What are
Mm.
you going to? You've read John Maxwell's book. What are you going to say if John Maxwell is going
Mm.
to listen to you? So we feel a little bit intimidated, but we've got to learn how to story tell your legend. You've got to learn how
Mm.
to position yourself because positioning increases your perception, Paul,
Mm. Mm.
right?
A lot.
So anyway,
A
long
lot.
story short, I wrote them this amazing email, and I just showed them how amazing I am in terms of, well, I've done this in Africa, I've done this and this, and I think it will be a great benefit. This is what I said. I think it will be a great benefit to have me as one of your speakers at any of the events that you might be having, because I also come
Mm.
with a very large African and African American a community, and I think that they would also be well served by the knowledge that I bring on this stage.
Yes. Yes.
Oh boy, when they read my email, because Seth speak English.
Yes.
When they read my email, they're like, "Oh my God, Steve, let's have a conversation." And
Mm.
within 15 minutes, with the head of sponsorships, the lady was like, "Oh my God, Steve, we must have you on this platform." And bro,
Hallelujah.
that's what it
Mm.
was. Do you get what I mean?
Mm.
That's what it is. So I think people, it's that grit and grind, it's that hustle power, it's that, you know, that you recognize that you belong on the world stages.
Mm.
We belong on the world stages. You and I are proof positive because we're doing it. We're doing it when
Yeah.
humans afraid, but we belong
Yes.
on the world stages. And I've always
Yes.
said, if Nigerians or Africans can buy from Americans, especially in the area of thought leadership, if they can buy
Yes.
American courses, then Americans can
Yes.
buy courses from Nigerians. Do you get what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Yes.
So our skills are just as valid. So yeah, that for
Wow,
me was what I
that's
did.
very, very powerful. I like that outreach. I mean, I was listening to a lady once. She's a published author with Penguin. She said she actually reached out to Penguin. She sent them the DM. She
Mm,
sent them the message. Many people have this thing in their head, just like you. But like you said, their self-limiting belief just incapacitates them. They don't even make the move at all, at all. And because of that, they
right.
don't see, the possibilities of what may happen, if they had tried.
Mm.
Now you've written books, you are an established author. What role has writing played in your success, in your growth? In terms of attracting new opportunities to you, bringing in leads, increasing your brand equity, what role has that played for you as an author?
Um, you can't have authority without being an author. You know
Mm,
what I mean? You can't have authority without being an
mm.
author. Because again, even the word authority, the first few letters is the word author.
Author, yes.
Do you get what I mean?
I like
So
that.
for me, authorship, writing, has cemented my positioning as an author. And I remember the very first book I wrote was, because again, like I said, it's not what you don't have that limits you; it's what you have, but you don't know how to use.
Mm,
And a lot of us as thought leaders want to write about stuff that makes us sound profound and
mm,
privileged and have all these deep revelation of
mm,
understanding that we have not experienced, but we want to be
mm,
perceived like as an authority, as a coach.
mm.
But bro, man, I wrote about my experiences. So my first book was about my dropping out of school
Yes,
story.
cool. Yes, that was a
From
powerful book. That was a powerful book. That book changed
yeah.
your life.
So sorry,
That book
it
changed
did,
the
it did,
trajectory of your
it
life.
did, it did,
It changed
it
your
did,
life.
it
That
did.
story
I
resonated with a lot of people. People could connect at
yeah,
deeper levels. Even if those that finished school, they could connect about areas of their life that they got rejected. I mean, the book
yeah.
was deep. Yeah, yeah,
Thank you, thank you,
yes,
thank you.
yeah.
Right. I mean, so I wrote that book from college dropouts to corporate
For the
sellouts.
sellouts,
And
yeah.
because again, it's just positioning. But I think I was very humble enough to recognize that I couldn't write about my success because I didn't have too much success at that time.
Mm,
So I started writing about my failure because again, you know how it is. A lot of motivational speakers in that our time in our era, about 10 years ago at that time, we're always talking about their success, their successes, the cars they had, the things that they
yes,
were doing, the
yes,
money they were
yes.
making. I didn't have the cars, I didn't have the money, I didn't have nothing. I just,
Mm,
okay, well, I have a great relationship with failure. And this is how I've come out of this failure.
mm.
Do you
I
get?
like
I have a
that.
great relationship with failure. So let me tell you about that. And I hope my failures will inspire you to succeed. That was just my message. Like, listen, let me share my
Mm,
failure. I'm hoping that one day my failure will inspire you to succeed. I may not have the bells and whistles, the cars, the plenty of money. I'm on my way there, but look at where I've come from. And I think where I've come
mm.
from. And just like you said, a lot of people resonated with that because show me somebody who hasn't failed in anything
Show me
or at
somebody.
anything.
Mm,
So
mm.
a lot of people could share my story of struggle. You know what I
Yes,
mean? Because they,
yes.
even if they didn't have educational challenges or get kicked out of school like I did, I was getting emails and letters from people who had a brother who dropped out of school or who had a sister that was strung out on
Mm.
crack. I would get messages from parents who would call me to talk to their children who are going through what I've gone through. So I became this reference
Wow.
point, you
Wow.
know. And because because they looked at me and my outlook was, this guy was very positive, this guy was pretty charismatic, could
Yes.
communicate very well, and was incredibly relatable, that just boom, just shifted my position. And I became literally like the darling of many organizations and many other, even faith based organizations, or even campuses and universities and colleges, who would invite me to share my story. And just like you said,
Mm.
my failure. Um, was such a resounding point. But for me, it wasn't like, oh, I dropped out of school, woe is me. It's like, I dropped out of school, but this is why I'm going to make it.
Wow, this is
This is
such a
why I'm going to
path.
be better. This is,
Mm.
you have no excuses. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, listen, I don't have a first class, second class, third class. I've got no class. And because I've got no class, I am going to determine the outcome of my life. And this is one of the
Mm.
things that inspires me, Paul. I always say that if I could ever meet Steve Harris in a different multiverse, now we're talking about multiverses and stuff like
Mm.
that. But if I could ever meet a Steve Harris from a different timeline or multiverse, I want that guy to look at me and wish he was me. Do you get what I mean? I want him to
Mm.
look at me and wish he was me. Like, oh my God, I wish I had your life. Now, the life I have may not be plenty fancy cars and Bugattis. I don't have those yet, and private jets. Perhaps someday. Um, but I want him to look at the kind of quality of life that I have, in terms of a loving family, in terms of the impacts I've been able to make, in terms of a
Yeah.
good name that I believe is better than riches, in
Mm.
terms of, doing some really good stuff and just being a blessing, I hope. I want that guy to look at my life and feel like, oh my God, I wish I had Steve's life. Right.
Mm.
So being an author, you can't mess with that. And since then, I've written two other books, from friend to fiance,
Yeah.
Honey, Why Are We Poor? My books
Yeah.
in total, Paul, have sold over 20,000 physical copies. You
That's
know what I mean?
yes.
And that's for us that are self-published authors. Or,
Yes.
you know, you know,
Yes.
you know, I know you've
Exactly.
sold more books than me, Paul, because you've written more books than me. You've sold more books than me, right?
That's
I've only
powerful.
written
The
three, but
average
Paul
author
is
doesn't
nine
sell up
books.
to 500 copies of their books.
Exactly,
So you're
exactly.
in the top
So
one
when you
one one
sell
one one
twenty
percent.
thousand,
That's
oh yeah,
huge.
absolutely. So when you sell
And the
like
good
twenty
thing about the
thousand,
book business is
you
that
know,
you write once and then you earn forever.
you earn forever, man. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that does help cement your authority. Absolutely.
Oh, oh, wow. Yeah, Steve, this has been a very, very fascinating conversation. What? Fascinating, fascinating, fascinating,
It's you now.
fascinating
You're the,
conversation.
you're the one coming up with all the questions. That's the quality of questions that determines the quality of answers. So this is
Fascinating,
you, man. This is all you.
fascinating, fascinating conversation. So, Steve, the last question I want to ask you before I let you go, because I know that you're very, very busy man. What is one or two things that used to be true for you then, but is no longer true for you again? I'm just thinking off the top of my head. For example, you used to send out
Hmm.
proposals every now and then to get a customer. But what is one thing that used to be true for you? I remember once you made a statement once when Lekki, you were sending out proposals. You were actually enveloping the proposals, packing them and sending to company. I can't forget that
Yeah.
something. You say, Paul, the more proposals you send, the more you leave poverty, the more poverty will leave you. Something like that. There's way you use, you
Yeah.
guys will come with
Yeah.
these aphorisms, those words. So what is it that
Mhm.
used to be true for you then that is no longer true for you again right now? Or it's in the process of not being concretely true for you like it used to be?
Um, it's quite interesting that you even mentioned this example of doing those proposals. And just like you said, I think what is no longer true for me is even that statement, to be honest. Um,
Mm,
I don't think I don't think now it's about the number of proposals you sent. I think now it's about the number of people that need you. Because when you send
mm,
proposals, you come from a place that you need them.
mm,
But when they send you emails, they come from a
mm.
place that they need you.
Yeah.
So I think it's going from customer acquisition, which is, in my opinion, sending proposals, and there's nothing wrong with that. So please do it,
Mm.
right? From going from customer
Because
acquisition to
it
now
keeps
going
the
to a place of
momentum, it starts
it
the
just keeps
rocket.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it does. You know what I mean? So there's a place for customer acquisition, but now what is no longer true, or where I've now gone to, is now a place of customer attraction.
Mm,
So I'm now in that place where I am attracting the clients I want to come and meet me. So
mm,
I'm not chasing you. I have the power to walk away from you. Do you get what
mm,
I mean? But I'm now in that place where it's no longer about the volume. I mean, Paul, there was one year because I remember we did the math. We sent out 1,307. We sent out proposals to 1,378 clients in one year.
Whoa, that's serious
I did the
volume.
math. I did the volume. I did the math. 1,378, and I just simply said I just need 0.1% of them to
Mm,
close. I just need to close. I don't need one. I just need 0.1% of them to close them, and I'll
mm,
be fine for a year. You know what I mean? Because I needed that volume. So I
yeah,
looked at different industries. I looked at sent them all proposals, did everything. But yes, and that helps because it builds capacity, builds character, builds it puts you in the mind of your clients to some degree.
yeah.
But I think now what is no longer true, or what is now true for me, is the fact that I've come into a place of positioning
Mm,
where I'm now attracting the kind of clients that want to work with me. Do you get what I
mm,
mean? And then when they want to work with me, they do things on my terms. So for
yeah,
example, I'm in the US and I'm in a totally different time zone from somebody, for example, in Nigeria. Do you
yeah.
get what I mean? I will not, so let's say they want to have a meeting by 9 a.m. I will not be up because
Mm,
it'll be 3 a.m. my time. I'm not going to
mm,
get up from my bed at 3 a.m. to have a conversation with you. You will do that. You want me, you will do that meeting when I am awake. So shift it. This is
mm,
the time I'm available. Let's have this meeting at so time. Do you get what I mean? Because now
yeah.
I'm global. I'm
Mm,
global. I'm in that place where my positioning is changing. My perception is changing, and my price has changed. Do you
mm,
get what I mean? So now I get a lot more. Oh, please, can we have a meeting with Steve? Or we would like to have this. Is Steve available? And if I'm not available, oh, you guys can do business with my company because my company is
mm,
still running, right?
mm,
But you now pay a premium to have Steve Harris if you want him there, and the
mm.
companies are paying premium. So for me, that is not exactly true anymore. It's perhaps something that I've evolved with. The
Wow.
second thing that I would say that has changed for me is, and I gave this example on Instagram. I remember, leaving, having the conversation with God really about leaving Nigeria because I did feel that sense again that it was time to move. I didn't
Mm,
want to because, Paul, we're incredibly successful in Nigeria. We're doing
mm,
very, very well,
mm.
right? We're in the top 1% of the 1% of our
Yes,
industry.
yes,
We
yes.
had a lot. We have a lot of influence, a lot of income, a lot of impact, and I was comfortable with that. But I felt God asking me to move to the U.S. in particular, and I remember having that conversation with him, and I said to him, Lord, in Nigeria, I'm a big fish in a small pond.
Mm,
And then if I move to the US, I will be a small fish in a big pond because there are all
mm.
these other bigger fishes there, right? I'll be a small fish in a big pond. And I remember God saying to me, who said you're the fish? Who said you're the fish? And he said to me that you are the water.
Mm,
And for me, that became a huge paradigm shift because the water doesn't change. The
mm,
water doesn't change in size or anything. The size of the fish can change, but the water remains constant. And the water
mm,
is a platform. The
mm,
water is an environment. And God was telling
mm.
me that your environment, you are the environment, you are the platform. You will not change. You are still the same guy. Because again, you remember those stories that we would hear. A lizard in Nigeria can never be an alligator in the
Crocodile in
US. Yes,
America.
you can
Yeah,
be a
yeah.
crocodile in America. You know what I'm saying? Yes,
Yes.
you can. Yes, you can. So perhaps that for me is something that I'm also evolving. I recognize that I don't know it all. I'm humble enough to learn, from great guys like yourself who still inspire me. Forget the fact that me and you are bros and me and you are colleagues and contemporaries. I'm incredibly inspired by your work ethic. Paul
Wow.
does not
Thank
have
you.
an off day. Paul, listen, listeners, for real though, Paul Foe does not have an off switch, and just like me, but Paul doesn't have an off switch. Paul is constantly on the go. Paul, Paul is moving his message and his marketing, and I see the people that have been inspired by you and the results because I see the results. Because again, you can't be the king of sales without results, man. And Paul Ford
Yeah.
has results. When I see the things that Paul is doing coaching people across different industries, real estate, marketing, banking, individuals, and they're getting life-changing results. I'm like, this is a guy that he's owned his craft. He's a sales master. He's like a master sales coach,
Yeah.
right? And if you're watching or you're listening to this, please, 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 please subscribe to whatever Paul Full has. If he's selling paper, trust me, buy it.
Thank you.
If he's
Thank
selling
you.
blank paper, Paul is the dude.
Thank
You
you,
can't
my
go wrong.
brother. Thank you. I'm very grateful. Thanks, Steve. This has been a fascinating conversation. So, where should we lead people to if they want to get more wisdom from you, more knowledge from you? Is it Instagram? Is it at I am Steve Harris? That's the Instagram.
Correct. Yeah,
In fact,
correct. MC.
you actually made the I am very popular in Nigeria at some point. Everybody's
Yeah,
hand was
man, everyone's
I
doing I
am
am now.
Bankole Williams. I am this. I say, hey.
Just to let you know that there's only one I am. Again,
Oh
just to
my
be
goodness.
just to be
Yeah.
mischievous. God
Yeah.
introduced himself as I am, so I'm
Yeah.
like, this is it.
So
This is
powerful,
me.
so
So
powerful, so powerful. I'm gonna put his Instagram handle in the show notes, and your book is on Amazon, so I'm gonna put the book in the show notes as well in the podcast. So thank you all for
yeah,
coming. Thank you, Steve. This has been a fantastic conversation. Please, those of you who are watching this on Instagram, sorry, on Spotify, listen to this on Spotify. Click on the subscribe button, write a comment, and tell me what you think about the episode. And click on that subscribe button. If you're watching this on YouTube, smash that red button, that subscribe button, and I'll talk to you next week with another fascinating guest. This has been good, Steve. Oh my God, man.